I'm Anita Huberman. I'm CEO of the Surrey Board of Trade. Thank you so much for joining us at a digital town hall with BC's Labour Minister Harry Bains. I'm coming to you today from the unceded territory of our Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Kwantlen-Katzie, Semiahmoo, and Tsawwassen First Nations. Events like this simply do not happen without the support of sponsors. Thank you so much to our presenting sponsor, the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, and our business and international trade center sponsors, the law firm of Fasken, the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan, represented by SNF Benefits, and BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada. I'd like to recognize some government officials that are on the call with us today. Of course, BC's Minister of Energy, Mines and Petroleum Resources, MLA for Surrey Wally, Bruce Ralston. Welcome, Bruce. Deputy Minister for the Ministry of Labour for the BC government, Trevor Hughes. Jagru Brar, MLA for Surrey Fleetwood. Trevor Halford, MLA for Surrey White Rock. Greg Kylo, MLA for Shuswap and official opposition critic for the Ministry of Labour. Her Worship, Val Vandenbroek from the City of Langley. And our City of Surrey councillors, Linda Annis and Brenda Locke. Welcome, everyone. Some instructions before we begin. All attendees are muted. If you have a question, please put it in the chat function. If you are from the media, you can also put your questions in the chat function. And if we're unable to get the answer that you need, we will get them to you after the session is over. Just a little bit about the Surrey Board of Trade. We are Surrey's city building business organization where we support business, bring business into the city. We're one of the top 10 largest chambers of commerce, boards of trades in Canada. There's 450 of us that have been supporting businesses through the pandemic. We have British Columbia's only pandemic rapid response business center, being that concierge of connections, instigating change at the different levels of government, ascertaining gaps and opportunities at all levels of government. We're one of 9 organizations on the Premier's Economic Recovery Task Force. We have a direct line into the Prime Minister's office doing the same, identifying gaps and opportunities. And I also wanted to say that we are just so pleased to do collaborative work around workforce development, workforce needs, which are so important, especially during this pandemic. But before we introduce our keynote speaker, I wanted to just introduce a video to you from the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority that's driving our economy even during the pandemic. And so, ladies and gentlemen, turn your attention to the screen as we show you what they're doing for our economy. The Vancouver Fraser Port Authority.
The Port of Vancouver connects Canadians to the world, and that's never been more important. Each container loaded, every ship that sets sail, means jobs saved and jobs created. It means goods moving to ensure communities have what they need.
Thank you so much. And they are ensuring that communities have what we need, whether it's goods locally or shipping goods abroad, and helping our global partners as well. And I'm so pleased now to welcome the Honorable Minister of Labour, Mr. Harry Bains. Harry, over to you for your remarks, please.
Good morning, and thank you, Anita. Thank you for the kind introduction and all the work you do. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for inviting me here today. And I would like to start by acknowledging the Coast Salish people on whose territory I'm participating from today. And my heartfelt greetings to my caucus colleagues, fellow MLAs and other elected officials in the audience. I always look forward to Surrey Board of Trade events Board represent the community that I live in, and the place I've been spending so much of my time in the past year. When I spoke to you last April, we were in the first wave of COVID-19, and we were hopeful that things would quickly return to normal. I never imagined that I would be here again almost 1 year later and still in a pandemic. But these are the times we live in. It is encouraging, though, to see Surrey recover almost 30,000 jobs in the last year. This is about 80% of the jobs lost when pandemic first hit us. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, I see that the Surrey issued almost 1.5 billion in construction permits last year, more than the 10-year average. That's a good news. And while the transmission of COVID-19 has risen in recent weeks, Surrey's effort in bending the curve have been among the best. And these are all positive signs. The local business community deserves much of the credit for being cooperative, proactive, and providing feedback to us on needed changes. Organizations like yours will have an important role to play as the economy continues to recover. It is critical to have this kind of engagement. Looking ahead, it is more important than ever to have open lines of communication to make our community better for people. We're all in it together, and we will succeed if we continue to work together as a community and as province. I'm very pleased by how the Surrey Board of Trade has stepped up to support business during the pandemic. Thank you for your hard work. As a member of the Premier's Economic Recovery Task Force, being a strong voice and resource for the community during COVID-19 and doing your part to help reduce the transmission of COVID-19, and providing resources and advice to local entrepreneurs who face challenges getting back on their feet. It is truly great to see Surrey Board of Trade position itself so proactively. I noticed you added some business resiliency categories to your Business Excellence Awards this year, and also that one of them went to My Greek Taverna, a favorite of mine, to tell you the truth. These are new awards, and they are well deserved. Because emerging from the pandemic, getting things back to normal is going to take a lot of resiliency. Highlighting business and community members is important for our collective morale. We have come a long way, and we're not out of the wood yet. And I know we can do it together. Our focus has been on people's health and safety and putting people first, because we firmly believe people are the economy. And we repeat this over and over again. Premier repeat this over and over again, because this is what we believe in. This is what guides us when we are developing our economic recovery plans. If people are healthy and safe, our workplaces are safe, this will support our economic recovery and faster. I'm from Surrey Newton, as you know, and I'm a patron of many of these local businesses, some of which are represented here today. Small and medium-sized businesses like those here in Surrey and across BC are the backbone of our economy. They are an essential part of our economic recovery now and into the future. We are committed to providing support for business through my ministry and across provincial government. We will continue to take a consultative approach so that employers, workers, and other impacted stakeholders are heard and supported. Our 1.5 billion Stronger BC plan is focused on people's health and livelihood, investing in stronger communities and taking action to help hard-hit industries. This includes a range of measures to help businesses get through the pandemic. The most significant for your membership is the Small and Medium-Sized Business Recovery Grant Program. Just this week, we made it easier to access these grants by extending the application deadline and lowering the requirement so that the more businesses are eligible. Eligible businesses can apply for one-time grant funding of between $1,000 or 10,000, sorry, to 30,000 to help them regain their footing. An extra $5,000 to $15,000 is available for businesses in tourism sector, one of the hardest hit industries during COVID-19. As well, Stronger BC is offering tax credits to make it easier to hire more workers. Eligible businesses can receive a tax credit equal to 15% of their payroll increase. There is a 100% PST rebate on select machinery and equipment to help businesses invest in their future. This includes farm equipment that will hopefully provide some relief to our community's strong agriculture sector. As part of Stronger BC, we're investing over $400 million to revitalize community infrastructure and support local governments. And we have earmarked more than $1 billion in provincial and federal investment to help keep people moving, whether by transit, TransLink, or BC Ferries. Our total of $31 billion infrastructure funds that is set aside that will create thousands of additional good paying jobs, but also improve our services that we depend on. We also have reduced commercial property taxes last year by an average 25% and delayed payments and interest for struggling businesses. This resulted in more than $700 million in savings for business. That's one of the largest business tax break in the history of the British Columbia. And recently, our government made a permanent change to allow licensed restaurants, bars, tourism operators to purchase liquor at the wholesale prices. Eliminating the markup these businesses had to pay previously will make a huge difference and huge boost to their viability. This pandemic is uncharted territory for all of us, to say the least. We have all had to adapt and change to an evolving and unpredictable situations, and government is no different. It didn't come with a playbook. But I can assure you, we are committed to working with you to provide effective and ongoing support. We're using all the tools available to do this, to help you succeed and build the foundation of healthy, thriving post-COVID-19 economy. I want to touch on some of the areas of my ministry that we are working in order to help through the COVID-19 timeframe we're going through. As Minister of Labor, I have focused mandate with many areas of responsibility that support workers and employers during pandemic and beyond. For example, we made regulatory changes to keep employer and workers connected and to reduce permanent layoffs. Last year, you provided valuable input in our decision to extend the temporary layoff limits. In July, we launched a simplified variance process and encouraged businesses to take advantage of provincial laws that allow workers and employers to extend temporary layoffs. This is unique to British Columbia, actually. By the end of 2020, we had issued more than 1,000 variances and protected over 12,000 jobs in 11 different sectors. Businesses can continue to renew their variances if needed. I know this remains an important option for hard-hit sectors such as tourism, accommodation, and food services. Now, the worker safety is always and will always be on top of my mind. During the pandemic, reducing the speed of COVID-19 and ensuring workplace safety has been major focus for all of us. Last spring, we introduced a job protected leave for people who can't work due to COVID-19. This allows people to take time off, get healthy, and avoid infecting others, especially at workplaces. And people can access the federal government benefit program without losing their job now. Temporary foreign workers are an important part of the workforce and our economy. And you have raised this issue with me many times. Our government worked with federal government to arrange hotel accommodation for these workers so they can self-isolate on arrival in BC, so we can safely support the agriculture sector and our local businesses. Under my ministry, we now have a licensing requirement for recruiters of foreign workers and registration requirement for employers who wish to hire temporary foreign workers. We have so far 3,000 employers registered and 162 recruiters licensed, and they are in good standing in BC. We can also prevent employers who are not complying with BC legislation from hiring temporary foreign workers through federal program. This not only ensure fair treatment of these workers that we highly depend on, it prevents dishonest operators, there are a few out there, from having an unfair advantage over those who follow the rules. Another area my ministry is working on is a strategy for precarious and gig economy. I'm sure you and many are interested in how are we going to move into that area. This work will be led by Parliamentary Secretary for New Economy, Adam Walker. Increasingly in the new economy, we're seeing people who work for the same business over a long period of time, but are still considered gig workers. We need to support businesses and encourage innovation in the new economy, but at the same time, ensure appropriate protections and working conditions for workers. Both Parliamentary Secretary Walker and I are committed to taking consultative approach before we make any improvement, and we look forward your input and your members' input. We will continue to consult with stakeholders on our work. Now, since the beginning of the pandemic, the government and many agencies and organizations have been collaborating to keep people safe. WorkSafeBC developed COVID-19 protocol for 32 different sectors based on consultation with the business community and associations like yourself. And they have conducted over 23,000 COVID-19 related workplace inspections on top of its usual workload. None of this would have been possible without the input and cooperation of business community here in Surrey and around BC. This is new territory, and your feedback on what works and what doesn't is invaluable as we continue to ensure that everyone is working safely. When COVID-19 numbers began to rise last fall, WorkSafeBC increased its focus on high-risk industries such as food processing and service sector. They have done and continue to do an amazing job, I might say. We will continue to make improvements so that workers return home healthy and safe at the end of their shift. By working together, we have been able to keep the doors of many businesses open and economy going. We're working together. We are building confidence among all British Columbians that businesses can operate safely. And I stress this point always, that all of us together, especially businesses, we need to win the confidence of our patrons, of our customers. When the customers believe that by catering our particular business, that their health and safety is protected, that the people who serve them, their health and safety is protected, they will come back and they will spread the word as well. That is a key to our economic recovery. Now, I must add another area. As you know, that the International Women's Day is coming up. I would like to commend you for the strong position your organization has taken on eliminating pay gaps and creating more opportunities for women, people living with disabilities, Indigenous, Black, and people of color. This issue speaks to one of the fundamental principles of our government, equity and anti-racism. An important part of that is looking at any policy decision through the lenses of what we call gender-based analysis plus. This is a tool or lens used to assess how policies and programs may impact a wide range of people. In my ministry and across government, we have been looking at how different populations interact with our policy, programs, and services to see how we can better engage with them. For example, last year, we introduced 5 days of paid leave for people impacted by domestic and sexual violence. We have also made annual increases to eliminate the discriminatory liquor server wages. So this June 1st, all liquor servers will make $15.20 an hour the same minimum wage as everyone else. Our Fair Wages Commission found that most liquor servers are women, over 82%, and that 70% of them earn less than $15 an hour, including tips. My mandate also includes working with Parliamentary Secretary for Gender Equity on new pay transparency legislation. And there are groups that face barriers today to fully participate in their communities and workplaces. That is why anti-bullying, anti-racism, harassment, and mental health supports are top priority of my ministry and of our government. We brought back Human Rights Commission and created the first ministry solely dedicated to mental health and addictions. And I believe we have a moral and ethical responsibility to tackle systemic discrimination in all forms. Together, we can make a difference. Now, here in Surrey, when I look around, I see a lot of good things happening. Surrey Langley SkyTrain project is moving forward. TransLink has referred the business case to senior governments for approval. This project will open up access, provide a huge boost to businesses on or near the line. The planning process is well underway for a new hospital in Surrey, a much needed facility that will address the healthcare needs of our growing population. Patolo Bridge, as you know, that replacement project is also moving ahead very rapidly. We're building 125 beds long-term care home in Surrey that will cater to the cultural and dietary needs of our diverse community. And my hats off to Charan Gill, who pushed for this project. He's no longer with us, but his legacy is some of those projects that we will continue on. Now, government also, in order to address the needs of regions' homeless and marginalized people, government's working with the city to fulfill our commitment to 250 permanent supportive houses. We opened 38 supportive homes in Surrey already, with 40 more units to come later this year, and additional 61, they are located, set to go near 104 and 148th Street. Last May, a new urgent and primary care center opened in Newton, near 68 and King George Highway, improving access to healthcare services. Surrey City Council recently approved financing for a new 90 million Newton Community Center. I'm excited about the new community center that our families will get to enjoy. Being from Newton, I want to recognize my friends, the Newton Business Improvement Association, for their hard work transforming Newton into a modern, friendly place to shop, do business, and to live. Their executive director, I want to give shout out to Philip Aguirre, does a great job leading these efforts. In addition to being a member of Surrey Board of Trade, he is a dedicated, committed advocate for our community. Over the last 4 decades, he has owned one of my favorite places to eat, Old Surrey Restaurant. Old Surrey Restaurant may be a throwback to Newton's past, but is also a symbol of his future and example of kind of resiliency needed and it takes to make through tough times like this. I know it's going to be around for at least another 4 decades. And I want to mention different businesses that I walk by every day, that I cater to. The espresso coffee shop across the street where I pick up my first cup of coffee every morning. Vanitos behind my office, organic grocers. There are many. I wish I could name all of them here. These are the businesses that define resiliency, because the resiliency that the Surrey businesses community has shown over the past year has been impressive. In conclusion, I want to say thank you for all you have done, your dedication, your leadership, and for helping provide important feedback and ideas that have helped shape our policies. I'm proud that BC has remained open for business. And we're not out of the woods yet, though. I must remind ourselves. Yes, there's a light at the end of the tunnel with vaccine available. More people are getting vaccinated every day, but we cannot let our guards down. Only by working together, only by looking out each other, we will beat this pandemic, that will make it through this pandemic. So thank you very much, Anita, again, and thank you all of you for attending, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my views and our government agenda with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister Bains. And ladies and gentlemen, a reminder, if you do have a question, please put it in the chat function and I will get to it as soon as possible. So Minister Bains, we have a good 30 minutes to interact with you on a variety of topics. I'm wondering if your ministry, WorkSafeBC, and other partners have talked about the vaccine rollout in terms of employer rights. We want to get the economy moving in as much as possible. Have you talked about a vaccine passport? Have you talked about employer rights?
Absolutely. I think WorkSafeBC, the Provincial Health Office, and the Ministry of Health are actively working along those lines. And we all know employers have their rights, their employees have their rights. I think at the end of the day, our focus right now is to beat this pandemic. And how do we do that is continue to follow the protocols that have been devised by Provincial Health Office. WorkSafeBC, as I mentioned, have helped put 32 sector-specific safety plans, safety protocols. And within each sector, as you know, Anita, that each business, the WorkSafeBC is helping with the help of provincial health, they can devise their own a safety plan that they are required to do that is suitable to their business and the size of the business and the people they cater to. So I think that is that. And WorkSafeBC, like I said, help the employers, the unions, the workers, if they have any question, working with the Provincial Health Office, not only help, divine and also change if they need to adjust their plans, but also they help them enforce. And like I said, over 23,000 inspections, in addition to their regular work, have been conducted so far. So I think it's not only putting a plan and people forget about it. No, they're also helping to enforce, help the employers to make sure that those protocols are worked with. Now the vaccine, I think those details are being worked on. The level of how the rollout is going to work, what age groups, and then how do you move to the next age group, and how do you connect with the health authorities to make an appointment. All of that, some of that is already worked. We are in phase 2 right now, which means within a week, those over 80, over 90 will be reached out and they will get the first vaccination. And then I believe March 15, those 80 years will start to get the appointments and they will start to get their vaccinations. And then they will start to move with increments of 5 years age. And I think eventually we want to make sure that everyone gets the vaccination that they need.
Minister Bains, I'm so glad that you spoke about the infrastructure investments within Surrey. Surrey is going to be the largest city in British Columbia by 2030, they're saying. And we have been starved of infrastructure investments in Surrey and in the South Fraser Economic Region. But I wanted to ask you specifically about the community benefits agreement and your perspective on that. With the Pattullo Bridge reconstruction, and of course we wanted to open with 6 lanes instead of only 4. But do you think that community benefits agreement is fair? Will it bring in enough labor that's needed in order to build that bridge on time?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question, Anita. As you know, I go back to 80s and 90s when I was actively working in the workforce. The need for skilled labor was identified back then, and that continued to be the demand of businesses. And many businesses are reluctant to invest because not sure that they will get the skilled labor that they need in order to complete their projects that they wanted to have and have a successful businesses in BC. So I think one of the way to improve that situation is through community benefit agreement, because part of the community benefit agreement is, number one, that there will be a certain percentage of apprentices, and also encouraging those groups who have been not so much active in large industrial construction, women in business, and those who are equity-seeking groups. So I think all those are components of community benefit agreement, which means there will be apprenticeships, not only to train to complete our projects today, but also to have a good pool of skilled labor going forward, so that businesses who wish to invest in BC will know that there is skilled labor available, good pool of skilled labor available for decades to come. And then we also, I think, we have been missed out on the talent and the skills of our women, 50% of our population. I know there are so many barriers that women have to go through in order to get into the workforce. All of those need to be worked on as well. But we want to encourage them to come and work in sometimes so much non-traditional for them, which is construction. In many cases, there are not that many women in the heavy construction, but now they are starting to get in there. They have good paying jobs, and we want to encourage that. And also have some apprentices and have a skills. So yes, there is always a shortage because we have $31 billion infrastructure set aside, the largest in the history of this province, which means that so many projects are on the way. So many projects that we want to build here, the bridges, the hospitals, the roads, and many other infrastructure the communities need, the local communities facilities need. So all of them require, more labor, more skilled labor. And I think we are well on our way to secure a good labor supply. And I think Patolo Bridge is an example. It will be built under CBA. It will be toll-free. And we are anticipating it will be built on time.
Minister Bains, one of the key portfolio items for the Surrey Board of Trade is around workforce development. And certainly, in our work to support businesses, we also need to support our workforce. What is your ministry's perspective on helping those workers that are facing domestic or sexual violence? We've seen an increase in that during the pandemic. What's your ministry doing on that very sensitive issue?
That's another, I think, side effect of a pandemic. Domestic violence is on the rise because many people are working from home. The stress level goes up. And so we want to make sure we protect those workers and support them because it's good for businesses to have those workers available. And they are healthy, they are safe in order to perform the duties that they're given. Now we have, as you know, a couple of things we did. They're very, very significant. One was that those who are sick due to COVID-related illnesses, now they have a job protected leave so that they will stay home, they will recover. In the meantime, they're not spreading the virus at workplaces. It's a win-win situation. Because when they go to work sick, then they transmit the virus to other workers. And once it's spread to a certain level, sometimes the businesses have to shut down. That's not good for business. That's not good for the workers. And I think that's why we brought that job protected leave. Also on the domestic violence and sexual violence. The survivors of domestic and sexual violence, that's another step we take, and my ministry took 5 days paid sick days, 5 days paid that they can take if they believe they need to deal with the situation on hand. It could be finding a new school, moving away from a violent situation, finding a new place to live, finding a new school for their children, doing their banking chores that they need to make that are necessary in order to deal with the situation. So it'll give them some time without worrying about their job, without worrying about losing their, the paycheck. And the other thing we did was, thanks to our premier, who championed on our behalf with the federal government to have a paid sick days. And first, the federal government finally came down, 2 weeks paid sick leave that you can take. If you feel sick, you should stay home and recover. And then we thought there were some gaps in there. You don't recover many times in 2 weeks. So the federal government listened again. Now they extended that to 4 weeks. Now there are a few more gaps that we identify. For example, the qualifying criteria that you must lose 50% in that week, the work and the wages, in order to qualify. Also, you must earn $5,000 in the previous 12 months or 2019 or 2020. Those are again barriers to benefits. So I think those serve well for EI purposes where you are actually using that as a bridge to a new job. But this one here, we're trying to stop the spread of pandemic. If you are an employee who started only 2 months ago, you should be qualified to stay home without worrying losing your paycheck, because many workers, as you know, are paycheck to paycheck. So they stay home and recover. So that's one area, a couple of gaps that we identified when my meeting with federal and provincial and territory ministers of labor on Monday. Again, I raised that issue that we need to deal with those gaps so that people who are sick can stay home without worrying about losing their paycheck, without worrying about whether they qualify or not. For example, Anita, if you feel sick, that you need to go get tested. Now you have to wait. It could take a day, it could take 2 days. So now you're waiting at home without any paycheck. And the results could come negative, but you already lost 2 days, maybe 3 days. So I think many people can't afford that. So they ended up going to work. And that is not good for business either, because then the transmission continues and the business could go down. So we are going to continue to work with the federal government to deal with those gaps that they still exist, because it's a national, not only national, it's international emergency. I think we should have a national solutions to it. That's why we're pushing federal government to continue to make those improvements.
And ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to let you know that certainly there's been so much dialogue this past year with Minister Bains around the paid sick leave program and fixing those gaps and improving it, because not everyone can get that paid sick leave. They still have bills to pay. We live in the highest cost area within Canada. So Minister Bains, thank you so much for hearing us. Of course, there's gaps, and we are providing, that information over to your ministry as we hear about it. I just want to pivot a little bit about the Fair Wages Commission. The minimum wage is increasing again in June. Will future increases be tied to CPI, Consumer Price Index? What's your perspective on that?
Yes, I think, Anita, good question. When we formed government 2017, one of the first things I did was establish a Fair Wages Commission. On that, the panel included the chief economist from BC Business Council, a professor from UBC, and also workers rep. They went around the province and they came back with their report unanimously recommending how we should increase minimum wage and what are some of the other areas that we need to deal with. And we implemented those. I think what they heard from small businesses especially was what they like to see is a gradual, predictable increase in minimum wage so that they can plan their costs going forward, rather than freeze it for a number of years and then raise it by $1 or $2 within a year or two. That is not good for business. That's not what they wanted. So we implemented that. And the last phase of that increase is June 1st of this year. It was a 4-year plan, and the minimum wage will go to $15.20 June 1st. And they also recommended going forward that it should be linked to inflation. So we are going to move forward through consultation that the minimum wage after June 1st, our position is through consultation again, we want to consult with you and your members, make sure that everyone, their voice is heard and that we implement whatever the recommendations are. And I think we are looking at right now linking the future increases to CPI. You're correct on that. And now the other part, that responsibility that I gave to Fair Wages Commission was, how do we deal with minimum wage, the difference between minimum wage and living wage? But your members and you probably would be happy to know that since we started that process, the gap between minimum wage and the living wage has narrowed for a couple of reasons. One, because the minimum wage started to go up gradually, but on the other side, the cost of living also we lowered for many people in British Columbia by way of childcare subsidy, and also removing tolls and MSB premiums. All those adds to removing cost of living, lowering the cost of living, and the study came out, I believe it was about a year ago, and they said that the gap has narrowed, or the living wage has come down in Lower Mainland as a result of the initiatives that the government has taken. So that's what the report is on Fair Wages Commission.
Well, Minister, the cost of living is still high, especially in Metro Vancouver, and the bottom line impact of taxation to the business community is significantly higher. So I encourage your government to also have a comprehensive review of taxes. We're advocating for the same at the federal government level too. And I think the time is right, especially as we move towards economic recovery. But I wanted to now talk about any perspectives that you have on upcoming changes to the Labor Relations Code. There's a question from an audience member that is asking you, in particular, is it going to remove the secret ballot vote and go to a card-based certification process? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the changes that we are contemplating, one is the how do we deal with gig economy and precarious workers? How do we encourage industry to grow? It's a new economy. How do we encourage new economy and through technology? At the same time, what are the protections for the workers who are employed in that industry? So we will be dealing with that with the help of provincial Parliamentary Secretary Adam Walker, as I mentioned before, but we will do that through consultation. And as we've done in the past, the changes that we contemplate going forward, again, will be through consultation, thorough, wide-ranging consultation. And you know what, Anita, we've been accused by many that we are doing too much consultation, too much review. I think I'd rather do more consultation than less or no consultation, because then at least we know where businesses are, what their voices are, what their needs are, and what the workers and the rest of the population is, our key stakeholders are, so that we make decisions based on the information we received for the people who will be impacted by our decision. So the key to your question is, whatever changes we are contemplating, it will be through consultation. So you will have a chance to have your say, whether it's a card check consultation, whether we want to go automatic certification from the existing. What I'm already starting to do that is the changes we made to the labor code. We want to know what are the impacts of those changes. Are they working? Are they doing the work that they were supposed to do? And if there still are some gaps, and whether we need to make further changes. So it'll be all through consultation with the data available, and then we will move forward based on what we heard. And so that's where that is going to be. And I think those are the two areas. But other area also, our focus will continue to, right now, is going to be how do we keep population safe? How do we deal with pandemic? How do we keep workplaces safe? Having the WCB and provincial health officer working together with industry, with workers, to make sure the workplaces are safe, our economy continue to recover and grow. As you know, BC started with a very strong economic foundation, and that has been recognized by experts outside of government. Private sector has recognized. And as a result of that, we are in better position to recover going forward as well. And so I think I have, optimistic view of where we're going to be tomorrow and coming weeks and months and years as far as British Columbia is considered, compared to other jurisdictions. We are still, considered to be the best in the economy in all of jurisdictions, or close to the best. International bond rating, continue to give us the highest rating, because our debt to GDP growth, continue to be very, very acceptable and respectable levels. So all those fundamentals are there. We kept the economy, going during this pandemic compared to other jurisdictions. So I think, that gives us a very strong foundation to have a very, brighter future going forward once we overcome this pandemic. Right now, our focus is continue to keep people safe.
Minister Bains, the BC government recently awarded $600,000 to an institution for enhanced apprenticeship training. Apprenticeships are one of the ingredients in the overall recipe of economic recovery. And also a third of our population is under the age of 19. So really mobilizing our young to take advantage of those apprenticeships is key. What's your perspective on really ramping that up and also ensuring that there's more employer participation and more educational institution participation around apprenticeships?
You're right on, Anita. I think over the next decade, 73,000 jobs openings are forecasted in the trades, and the rapid adoption of technology and retirements. So that's why that investment is crucial at this particular time. That's why what we talked about CBA having a component, because we are talking about these major infrastructure and projects paid for by taxpayer dollars. And we want to make sure that return to the local economy, local workers, local businesses is there, and to have an opportunity to train our workforce, not only for today, but for the future as well, knowing the numbers that we are facing. 73,000 jobs will be in trades, just coming forward. So I think that is why it's important. We have many unions who provide trade schools, many public institutions are there as well. And there are many other institutions who are the groups who work very hard. They have a very good successful programs in place. And that's why we're supporting all of them to make sure that we can train our trades as soon as we can. Now, the other thing also, as you know, that the many businesses have been asking that there should be what they call compulsory trade or mandatory trade. And we're going to move on that too. I am working very closely with the Minister of Advanced Education. How do we recognize those apprenticeshable trades that should be considered a mandatory or compulsory? Different wording are being used to describe the same thing. And we want to make sure that the consumer at the end of the day get a product that has been built by a trained tradesperson. And we want to make sure that the workplaces are safe as a result of that. So we're moving on many different ways in order to help the industry and make sure that we have the skills that we need, we have the workforce we need, and all those components are part of our success story.
A third of our land base in Surrey is agricultural. Whether it's farms, greenhouses, some are innovating in terms of agri-tech. But some of these businesses need access to temporary foreign workers.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you spoke a little bit about that in terms of enhancement in process and applications. Is that going to, farming season is coming up in Surrey and of course in the rest of British Columbia. Are things going to be easier for these owners to access temporary foreign workers and other industries as well that need that?
Yeah, Anita, another good question. I think BC was one of the jurisdictions, at least recognized by Mexico, where they said that they would allow their workers to come to work in British Columbia during the pandemic because they felt that their workers have the protection and health and safety measures in place, the health and safety protocols are in place, and that we have all the support that they need when they come. Yes, we didn't get all of them to come here, as many as they used to come, but we had almost close to it. Other jurisdictions didn't get workers from Mexico because it was felt that their health and safety may not be, and the protection may not be at a level that it needed to. So that's why we have found how do we place them in quarantine and protect them during that time and provide them support that they need. So I think if I memory correct me, serve me correctly, over 7,000 temporary foreign workers came to BC to work in the farms and other places. I think it's another area that I think I'm proud to be part of a group of government or the colleagues that are there, that we recognize early on that that is going to be key part of our economic recovery and continue to work during the pandemic to have the temporary foreign workers come, not only to support our businesses, because they rely heavily on these temporary foreign workers, but at the same time protect them. Because I believe firmly, and I know my colleagues and my government believe, that regardless of your immigration status, if you're a worker in British Columbia, you enjoy all rights and protection as any other workers. So that's what we did, and we will continue to do that. And we put some structure in place, Anita, and I mentioned that earlier on, that there was abuse and exploitation. The temporary foreign workers were threatened. They were taking the passports away. They were made to live in unhealthy conditions. And so we are putting structure in place to provide them that support and protection by having recruiters a license. Now, they can be fined or jailed if they provide them wrong information. And the employer now are registered and they are required to follow the law. And if they don't, we will work with the federal government, then they will be denied access to temporary foreign worker going forward if they don't obey the law. There are only few, Anita, I must say to all of you, only few who take unfair advantage over good employers who obey the law and treat their workers with respect and dignity. And that's why we want to protect those good employers, at the same time ensure workers' health and safety is protected.
Surrey has many businesses in the forestry industry sector. What's your perspective on supporting forestry workers? Any support, any issues that you're hearing?
Well, forestry is one of the industries that built British Columbia for 150 years. It was one of the key core, along with agriculture, mining, and fishing, that built British Columbia. So we have a strong roots in there. We have expertise in there. But over the last number of years, forestry been struggling. We have seen over 35,000 jobs lost, over 150 sawmills shut down. But these are changing times. There is a shortage of fiber available, and there was a higher capacity of mills, especially on the coast, and the interior more so now. Interior, we have more capacity than the fiber available. On the coast, it has changed now. We have fiber available, but we don't have sawmilling capacity to match the fiber supply. So the good news is that the market is red hot. I've never seen forestry as hot market as I've seen today. Lumber prices are over $1,000 right now, US, unheard of. I've been in the forest industry since 1973. Never seen price of lumber that is that high over a few months earlier. The highest I've seen was up to 500. And I can tell you, this one is a really good news for our forest industry. But we need to be innovative. We need to find new and innovative way of utilizing what fiber is available to us. We can't continue to cut trees and make our traditional 2x4s and 2x10s and ship them away and allow others to create a final product and ship them back to us. We need to create more jobs with the amount of timber available to us. We've already started working on that thanks to the industry. There's just so much innovation going on there now, but more need to be done. We are going to support the industry, like a mass timber is one of the programs that we are supporting the industry. Wood First is another program we have. So I think we need to continue to work hard. We want to make sure that the forestry continue to drive the engine of our economy as they have done in 150 years. It's not, as many people would like to say, a fading industry. It is a growing. It is, I think, industry with a future. And I fully will work with my colleagues and my government to make sure that we support the forest industry as much as we can, innovate and renew so that we can create more jobs, good family supporting jobs, not only in rural BC, but right here in Lower Mainland as well.
And we're hoping with the new US administration that your government will put pressure on the federal government to expediently move forward on a win-win softwood lumber agreement that will benefit BC forestry businesses. My
connection is a little bit weaker right now.
Yeah. My last question to you and is related to the public safety infrastructure transition within Surrey. And it is going to affect all BC communities. I wanted to understand how your ministry is interfacing with WorkSafe issues or workforce issues related to public safety.
Yeah, as you know, public safety continue to be a priority. I think I firmly believe, I know you believe, and everyone in democracy, everyone deserve to feel safe in their own homes, walking their neighborhood park with their children in school, and while using our public facilities. So I think that is very, very important. And number of initiatives have been taken. It is a complex situation when it comes to crime, gang violence, and public safety, drug and gang violence. I think number of initiatives already taken. We need to deal with that. WorkSafeBC, you mentioned, they are working with employers, and we are saying that at workplaces must be free of harassment, crime, discrimination. There's no place of those sort of things at workplaces. And as you know, just recently, Minister Farnworth have introduced a bill in the House to take stronger measures to control guns and the transportation of guns. And I think it's a good news. But again, I think it's a complex area to deal with, and it requires a very comprehensive plan to deal with the crime going forward. And I think those are some of the steps that we are taking. And certainly your input is valuable, and we will be working with the communities and other stakeholders to make sure that public safety continue to be #1 priority.
Minister Bains, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to the Surrey Board of Trade and to our audience members. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority. Please check out all of our events and programs at www.businessinsurrey.com. Next week, networking and connections are still important. We have a networking at noon with the KPU School of Business, a focus on fraud, because during the pandemic, online business commerce activity is very important to protect yourself. And we also have an accessible certificate training program to hire persons with disabilities. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us today, and you may leave the meeting. Thank you.
Anita, thank you very much. And I want to say thank you for the invitation, and stay safe, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.